Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. This legislation should look familiar. Last year, I presented this bill as House Bill 288. It passed out of this committee and passed on the floor of the House 97-0. Did get through the Senate Education Committee. They had some questions. We just didn't get those resolved in a timely manner before the end of session, so we're back this time. Why are we presenting House Bill 275 today? If you watch the news on any given day, unfortunately, you will see where an unfortunate situation has happened in a school system involving a teacher or someone in authority with one of the students. This is a sad reality, and the intent of House Bill 275 is to try to prevent this from happening. Let me go over a few of the main provisions. In Section 1 specifically states that school cannot enter into a non-disclosure agreement. Not only public schools, over in the bill where it talks about the certified non-public schools, that is also added to that section of the language. Section 2 defines abusive conduct, means conduct involving a minor or student, involving sexual misconduct and conduct subject to mandatory reporting procedures. A lot of what this legislation does is it deals with the application process when someone applies for a position with a school system. It requires that applicant to disclose any other public or non-public school that they have taught in. It requires the school system to reach out to those other school districts for references to ask if there have been any specific issues of this nature. It also requires those past school districts to provide the information. It gives them immunity on that. So that's part of it. We're trying to screen out. Let me share a situation, a real life situation for someone I know, and this was before I came into service in the General Assembly. I know a family who had a young teenage daughter. I believe she was a junior or senior in high school. A teacher was making unwanted sexual advances toward this young lady. The parents found out. They started investigating. They discovered that this teacher had actually been employed in another school district not far away, and the same situation had happened. So what happened is that teacher just resigned their position. No investigation was ever completed. There was no record of this incident anywhere for this this new school district to know this had happened. So that's kind of the premise for this application process, and part of why I felt compelled to bring this legislation forward. And then in 2022, there was a series of articles by the Lexington Herald-Leader that highlighted just how significant this issue is. And since that time, like I say, I continue to see these issues. So that's just a little background into the allegation part of it, that process. There's also, in subsection 2 of that section 2, it details the process that will take place when the allegation is made. When the student, that young person, makes an allegation of somebody in the school system, they are required to report that to the principal. The principal is required to document that allegation and submit that reported allegation to the superintendent. The superintendent is required to conduct an investigation, and they are required to complete that investigation, whether that teacher or whether that employee stays employed by the school district or not. That way, there is a completion to that. It will come to completion one way or another. So if there is truth to the allegation, it would stay in that permanent record. Obviously, there are other, in KRS 161, there are some reporting guidelines. The superintendent's required to report this type of situation to EPSB for them to review. But this is on the local level. Section 4 of the bill also addresses certified non-public schools. It has the non-disclosure agreement and puts some requirements on them. Section 4 of the bill will require KDE to develop a training that would be given to all employees in the 25-26 school year, or any new employee when they become employed, and they would be required to repeat that training once every 5 years. Okay, I appreciate that, but I'd like at this time for my guest to share her statement.
My name's Katomi Okakura, and I'm a student at the University of Kentucky and a graduate of Kentucky K-12 schools, where I learned from some of the most amazing teachers. I'm here today to voice my support for House Bill 275, not only as a student, but as a survivor of grooming and sexual abuse carried out by my high school teacher. I was a teenager when the teacher created a private group chat with me and my friend on Remind, a texting platform utilized by my high school to update classes on assignments and important information. He worked to gain my trust, talking with me behind the closed doors of his office and offering me homemade food when my grandfather passed away. After gaining my trust, he would emotionally manipulate me and the other students he favored, publicly shunning and alienating anyone who did something to upset him. Other adults and school staff observed his flirtatious teasing and conversations that occurred behind closed doors, unaware of the grooming occurring before their eyes and reinforcing my belief that what was going on was normal. Unfortunately, the texts and teasing escalated when he began tutoring me. During these tutoring sessions, he gave massages, exposed himself, digitally penetrated me, and manipulated my hands for his own pleasure. An anonymous adult eventually raised concerns to the principal of the school. However, to my knowledge, the exploration into these concerns ceased after the principal questioned the teacher and contacted my parents, who knew of the tutoring sessions but were unaware of what really happened during them. It wasn't until talking with my college friends that I began to fully understand the gravity of my experience and the betrayal of an individual I trusted, my community trusted. Now, I'm sitting before you, months away from my graduation from UK. But my experience with educator sexual misconduct almost stole this from me. When I first began to grasp the reality of my high school experiences, I did not know if I would be here to walk across that stage. In those months, I would spend days without a minute of sleep, and energy drinks and coffee became my new water as I fought to stay awake, knowing that every time I closed my eyes, I would be brought back to the back seat of a car with the teacher who had just taken my clothes off. In the time between the anonymous adult's concerns and my report to the Kentucky State Police, the teacher confessed his love to a recent graduate and continued texting high school students individually. The teacher who abused me did not stop after his actions were first questioned. And I wish I could tell you that my experience is unique. But since I last sat here before the Education Committee less than a year ago, I've had friends, community members, teachers, and strangers tell me their story or a story that happened in their community. I was not the first person to experience educator sexual misconduct in Kentucky, and I'm not the last. This bill is important because it can prevent these teachers from being able to continue abusing students. And I want to thank you for letting me speak today, and I hope you vote in favor of this bill to show our students, our kids, that as a state, we care about protecting them from sexual misconduct in their schools.
Katomi, thank you for coming forward and sharing your story. I know it was not easy. Ms. Chair would be glad to entertain any questions from the committee.